كنت دكتور حميد دباشي، أنا أولا شاكر لك مشاركتك يعني معنا بهالحوار. أنا اليوم عم بعمل
مثل.
هالحوار معك من الضاحية الجنوبية لبيروت. يعني مع ما يعني هذا الموضوع من يعني من وجودنا بمنطقة هي عادة تحت القصف الإسرائيلي. واليوم نحن نتشارك مع إيران في نفس الحرب، إذا صح التعبير. أنا رح أنطلق من كتابك، وأنا مسرور جدا حقيقة أنه كان هالكتاب باللغة العربية بالفترة الأخيرة، إيران بلا حدود. يعني عندما تحدثت أنه آه، الرؤية الكولونيالية خلينا نقول لمنطقتنا جعلتنا نرى الدول والأمم من خلال الحدود الجغرافية، بينما الحقيقة أننا يجب أن نرى المسائل بطريقة نوعا ما مختلفة متحررة من هذه القيود. أنا شخصيا استفدت جدا من مقاربتك، لدرجة أنه أطروحة الدكتوراه اللي عن سوريا أنا أعيد صياغتها تحت هالمفهوم أو من هالمنظار، إذا صح التعبير.
Thank you. I
خليني
didn't
أبتدي أنا
know, I didn't
وياكم
actually know. Yeah, I did not know that that book was translated into Arabic. I'm delighted that see it in Arabic.
أوكي أوكي. يعني هذا جيد. هو أنا كمان يعني استغربت هيك، حسيت في بعض النواقص، بس هو جميل جدا حقيقة هالكتاب. دكتور، أنت مش بحاجة للتعريف بحضرتك. أنت أستاذ مؤرخ ومفكر وناقد إيراني مقيم بالولايات المتحدة، تعلم بجامعة كولومبيا. أنت كنت صديق للدكتور أدوارد سعيد، الله يرحمه.
Allah yarhamhu. Allah yarhamhu.
حقيقة أنا أعتبر أنه يعني ما تقدمه في الأكاديميا والثقافة هو ميراث لكل شعوب الجنوب ول يعني كل شعوب العالم حقيقة. خليني ابتدي انا وياكم من ايران بلا حدود. انت بتقول انه لابد من قراءة ايران نوعا ما بنحو مختلف. ايران بما فيها من عنصر عربي، بما فيها من عنصر هندي، بما فيها من عنصر يعني اسود. ايران هالمتشكلة ثقافيا، متنوعة ثقافيا وسياسيا. برأيك الحرب حاليا بالنسبة لإيران وهوية إيران، ماذا تضيف هذه الحرب إلى هوية إيران المتعددة خلينا نقول؟
Bashar, first of all, thank you for your invitation. I am in New York, but half of my heart is in Beirut and Lebanon. Half of my heart is in Iran. Half of my heart is in Palestine. I deeply worry. Lebanon is home to me. I know South Lebanon very well. I have swam in your beautiful sea. I have traveled from top to bottom of Lebanon, and I worry about my friends, my Masri, Fawaz Tarabulsi, Rasha Salti. I mean, all of my friends who are in George Saliba. All of my friends were in Lebanon, and I deeply worry for them. Now, the book, Bashar, that you said, Iran Without Borders, is my way of thinking about our region without a colonially manufactured borders that have divided our world, that this is Lebanon, this is Syria, this is Iran, and so forth. By virtue of the longevity of its history and by virtue of its uh, uh, geography, it is of a nature that Lebanon in particular is very much integral to Iranian history. In 16th century, Shia scholars from Jabal Amil, they travel to Isfahan and they revolutionize Shia scholastic learning. We have a joke that they got on their donkeys and they didn't speak Persian. They just knew one sentence, Isfahan kojast. Where is Isfahan? And
نصف
they just,
العالم.
yeah, where is Isfahan? And they found their way into Isfahan. So I have always felt, I as an Iranian have always felt at home in Lebanon, in Syria, in Palestine, in all of these areas. But the question is not personal, the question is historical. And the fact is that Iran as a culture is a cosmopolitan culture, is a mosaics of cultures that it has never been able to pure anything. Pure is fascistic, Bashar. Nothing is pure. Anything that claims to be pure, pure Arab, pure Iranian, pure Turk, is a sign of fascism. Fortunately, alhamdulillah, that our cultures are cosmopolitan and are interrelated. Our languages are interrelated. I remember once around there was a fight whether it's Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf. I said, well, right now, this is years ago, it is actually American Gulf because that's where they were ruling. But that has changed because of the situation in after the 28th of February, when Israel instigated this attack. But as I said at the beginning, Israel army can only fight defenseless people, has never fought with people who can actually defend themselves. And as you saw in the what appears to have been a ceasefire that Israel, of course, immediately violated, inclusion of Lebanon in Iranian ceasefire, Iranian negotiated ceasefire, which may or may not have been a ceasefire, was integral to the best interest of Iran. For the first time, I think, now we're witness, not that we needed it, we are witness to the fact that these colonial borders that have been manufactured, and it is not just a question of Shia or Sunni or things of that sort. Yes, a significant population of Lebanon are Shias. I, as an Iranian, when I am in Dahia neighborhood or in southern Lebanon, I feel at home. It's my people, it's my language, it's my religion, it's my culture. But it is not limited to that. It is an integral part of our culture, our civilization, and our history, that all of these are related. So going back to the book, in the book, I'm trying to argue that the colonial borders with which we have divided these countries in order to rule them better, actually in reality does not work. The same is with Iraq. I mean, I was born and raised in southern part of Iran. And as I have close affinity with my Iraqi friends and colleagues and sisters and brothers, we're part of the same, both sides of Shat al-Arab, on that side and this side. So the book is an attempt to historicize and theorize the fact that these colonial borders don't make sense.
مهم. طيب لو بدي أسألك عن يعني مجددا هوية إيران في هذه الحرب أو ما بعد هذه الحرب، برأيك إيران رح تكون أكثر كوزموبوليتانية بنهاية هذه الحرب، أم ستكون يعني خلينا نقول متقوقعة أكثر أو منطوية أكثر على نفسها، باعتبارها فينا نقول الثقافة الفارسية فيها لها حضور كبير جدا، أو الثقافة الشيعية؟ وبالتالي أنت كيف ترى تأثير هذه الحرب على إيران؟ أي إيران ستكون ما بعد هذه الحرب؟
I think that this particular war, that the same forces, United States and Israel, but I emphasize particularly Israel, because I'm telling you, as somebody who lives in the United States, the overwhelming majority of Americans oppose this war. It is Israeli Donald Trump war, not Israeli American war.
Mm-hmm.
Compare it with the fact that the overwhelming majority of Israelis are supporting this war. So it is not Trump, it is not Netanyahu, it's Israel. Israel is waging this war. This war has manifested, has brought to the surface realities that have existed, namely the fact that in Iran, some had to argue that Gaza and Lebanon are part of our national interest, or Syria are part of the national interest. Not that the reality of Lebanon is a nation unto itself, and as a result has interests of its own. Formation of Hezbollah, for example, has to do with the 1982 Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Has nothing to, Iran didn't invade Lebanon in 1982. Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982. The Shias in Lebanon have always been victimized, have always been violated, have always been subject to harassment. And the presence of Iran in southern Lebanon and the rise of Hezbollah as a resistance movement has to do with the internal dynamics of the Lebanese. The same is true with Hashd al-Sha'bi in Iraq. The same is true with Hamas in Palestine. The same is true with Houthis in Yemen.
يمن.
It is important to keep in mind that Iran does not go there to create these troubles. Iran, these nations, you as a Lebanese, you're part of a resistance to invasion and occupation and theft of your homeland. Right now, southern Lebanon is being occupied by Israeli forces the same way that they're occupying Golan Heights and the rest of the area in Syria, the same way that they are now trying to gobble up West Bank, the same way that they grazed Gaza. So it is not that Iran is creating this trouble, but the fact is Lebanon, Palestine, uh, Iraq, and all of these areas, Syria, they are part of a larger geographical area in which Iran is present. And Iran is. Why is it that for the first time that a Muslim country was able to respond? Iran did not initiate this war. Iran was responding, sending missiles and drones into Haifa. What is this joy that people, Arabs and Muslims around the world, from Tunis all the way to Iraq, feel? What is this joy? This joy is that Iran has become integral to the rest of the Arab and Muslim world, to the degree that now you have muftis in Al-Azhar coming and rethinking all the Sunni Shia differences. There has been a historical vilification of Shiis, as if they say, well, even the Zionists are better than Shiis. For what? When did that happen? I'm a Shia. What does it mean? We believe in the same Quran. We believe in the same God. We believe in the same prophet. And if we believe Abu Bakr was the first caliph, or Omar was the caliph, okay, I mean, it's like brothers and sisters having differences of opinion about one thing. It doesn't mean that I'm an alien or that I come from. Islam is integral to Iranian culture. Integral. Why is it that we are now so flabbergasted by the bombing of the mosque in Isfahan? I've been there as an undergraduate student. I used to go to Masjid Jame, one of the glorious manifestations of Islamic civilization. I tell you, Bashar, a story how this war is bringing Arabs and Iranians together. Years ago, I was having a conversation with a dear Palestinian friend who is a prominent Palestinian intellectual. And I was telling him about 16th century Muslim philosopher, Shi'i philosopher, Mullah Sadra. Mullah Sadra said this, Mullah Sadra said that. And Ismail, my friend, was telling me, Hamid, this is amazing. I wish they were translated into Arabic. I said, what the hell are you talking about? They are in Arabic. But you don't know it because you think Iran and Shias are some other planet. The overwhelming majority of books written in theology and philosophy and mysticism by Iranians are in Arabic, for God's sake. So sometimes I say this Persian Gulf is not a water, it's a mountain. You have to cross the mountain. But our ancestors from Jabal Amil had a much easier time to travel to Isfahan, sit there and redefine Islam and they did it for all Muslims. They were not thinking of themselves as Shia or as Isna Ashari or as Ismaili or anything. They were thinking of themselves as Muslim. And that is being resuscitated. That is being reimagined. I am absolutely convinced I don't like to use European periodization, but if we were to use Renaissance as a generic name, this is a period of Islamic Renaissance in the sense that it brings Arabs and Iranians and Turks and Indians, Pakistanis closer together to rethink the colonial divides that have been made in order to say, oh, you're a Sunni, you're a Shia, you're an Arab, you're a Persian, in order to separate us.
طيب
I,
نعم، خليني دكتور انطلق من هالمسألة. هو من الواضح أنه من لحظة 7 أكتوبر 2023 خلينا نقول كأنه ابتدأ عصر الشعوب، أقلها بمنطقتنا. يعني شعرنا، أنا يعني يومها كتبت مقال إنه زمن المستضعفين، هذا زمن المستضعفين. ولكن اليوم عندنا سؤال بمنطقتنا، هو أولا حول المثقف سواء بمنطقتنا أو بالغرب. يعني حضرتك قلت أنه الحرب الحالية عم بتصير على إيران هي حرب ترامب وإسرائيل على إيران، وأن هناك رأي عام أمريكي رافض للحرب. ولكن اليوم كمان بنفس الوقت أنا بسأل وين المثقف بأمريكا؟ ما عم نسمع صوته. وين المثقف بمنطقتنا؟ بالمناسبة بس دكتور، حضرتك عم تحكي وأنت معارض إيراني. نحن مش معتادين بالمنطقة العربية أن يكون مثقف معارض يعني لنظامه بنفس الوقت يصطف مع الدولة أو الأمة أمته بمواجهة الاستعمار أو بمواجهة الكولونيالية. صراحة هذا شيء مش معتادينه بالمنطقة العربية. نحن معتادين على المثقف ضد النظام، يعني تلقائيا انه هو مع التدخل الخارجي. فخليني اسالك بدايه هيك اسئله سريعه. اولا، المثقف الامريكي وين اليوم؟ والمثقف الغربي وين اليوم؟ ما عم نشوف.
Okay, here you have to, I cannot name, but I can tell you, for example, the election of Zohran Mamdani in New York. This is an indication of something that the entire Zionist apparatus, from New York Times to all sorts of forces, were mobilized against Zohran Mamdani. Now, Zohran Mamdani is not God's gift to humanity. He has his own, he's a politician and he has his own agenda. But the fact is that there is a rise of collective consciousness in the United States. I'll give you an example. There was a demonstration about a month ago called No King demonstration, No King, which
نوكينج
was against Donald Trump. But it
آه.
was not just against Donald Trump's tendency of this imperial presidency. It was also against ICE, this immigration center, which is trained by Israel.
مهم.
ICE is trained by Israeli security forces.
مهم.
And it was against war. For the first time throughout United States, even in pages of New York Times, people are asking, what are we doing in this war? Who took us to this war? And now even New York Times admits it was based on the whim of Israelis that for decades they had been trying to convince Americans to invade Iran, that this war has happened. So resistance to this war, as you see it, for example, in the APAC, the power of APAC in various political machinations. Now, Democrats are distancing themselves from APAC. The fact is that poll after poll, statistics after statistics, Americans don't like to be held hostage to Israeli interests. And Israeli interests are whimsical. They have nothing to do with reality. They have to do with the fact that they want to gobble up the entirety of Palestine. They want to gobble up the entirety of Lebanon, at least to the Litani River. And they are talking about Greater Israel. What exactly is Greater Israel? What are the borders of Greater Israel? That is, as a colonial project, Israel itself is coming to an end. So, going back to your question, where is the cultural and intellectual position of Americans vis-a-vis? You see it in various polls, you see it in the discrediting of APAC and other interest groups, and you see it in demonstrations that are against the war, against ICE, and against this umbilical cord with Israel that has been created.
مهم. طيب خليني اسالك السؤال المستأنف بيكون من بعده. المثقف في عالم الجنوب وتحديدا يعني في إيران والمنطقة العربية، ربما نحن بالمنطقة العربية بنعاني أكثر شيء من هالمسألة. المثقفين هن غارقين بسرديات كولونيالية استعمارية عن منطقتنا، وللأسف بكل إفرازاتها الطائفية العنصرية، مرات المنحبسة بالحدود الوطنية يعني. وبالتالي ما عندنا هذا المثقف لحد هلأ اللي عم بيحاول يتجاوز الأزمات وإفرازات الكولونيالية. نظرتك بداية للمثقف الإيراني بمنطقتنا، كيف ستنعكس هذه الحرب على منطق المثقف الإيراني؟
Uh, I used to joke with my Lebanese friends that I'm a Shi'i.
مثل مهدي عامر.
So, exactly. I'm a Shi'i.
مم.
I'm also Shabi. And since my childhood, I've been connected with Jewish Shabiya.
الجبهة الشعبية.
Exactly, with Allah yarhamhu, with Ghassan Kanafani.
آه.
Now, here we have to be careful. Your key concept, Bashar, is Junub, is global south. We have to think of global south. Unfortunately, both Iranian and Arab and even Turks and even Indian thinkers have worked through a binary. In Arab cultures, we say Arab Qarb, Arab Qarb. So it's just a binary. The same is with Iranian, that Iran and the West, Iran and the West. For example, any time that I've taught in Arab universities from Morocco to Lebanon, the problem is Arab and Iranian intellectuals, they cannot name 3 philosophers from Africa, 3 philosophers from Latin America. They know everything about European philosophy. I hope and I believe after this world, the solidarity and the fact that we realize we in the South, and many of us are also in the North, it is not just North and South, we need to get to know who are the philosophers that are in Asia and Africa and India, in Latin America, in Argentina, in Mexico, and in various parts of Africa, that we need to know. If Mudimbe, Waivi Mudimbe, is an African philosopher of enormous significance, Edward Said, Allah yarhamu, was a friend, was a colleague, but it is not enough to say Edward Said and whatever. Edward Said was one, great. But who else? Who else do we know? Those who don't write in Arabic, they don't write in English. They may write in French. They may write in Spanish. So we need a kind of a translation movement that begins to realize that, for example, Enrique Dussel, an Argentinian philosopher who wrote in Spanish, and for decades that I have taught in Arab University, they never heard of him. We have to start translating them because they are our comrades. They are they think like we do. Now, translating Arabic and Persian sources into Arabic into Persian and Persian into Arabic is equally important. So the Renaissance that I'm talking about is for an Iranian intellectual who is based in Tehran or based in Isfahan or based in Tabriz, to become conscious of the fact that there is a world outside Europe and stop fetishizing Europe, that everything they know, how many books Derrida has written, and even if Zizek sneezes, everybody knows about Zizek's thing. But if our name is Hamid or Bashar, they are one of us. No, a Bashar and a Hamid and a Aziz and a Ahmad and a Zahra and they also have things to say. So you have to start doing. I am among the first to have been translated into Arabic, but partially because of my Palestinian friends. Palestine is the epicenter of all of this. In short, this should be the beginning of a renaissance that we Arabs, Iranians, Turks, Indians, they become more conscious of our own presence, of the necessity of our becoming a knowing subject. And we are no longer, I've always said, I said this and I stop. Edward Said, Allah yarhamhu, had in his mind a white American interlocutor sitting inside his mind that he wanted to convince that Palestinians have been wronged. And unless that fictional man, white man in his mind, was not convinced that Palestinians have been wronged, Palestinians were not wronged. In my book on post-Orientalism, which is also translated into Arabic, I said, I am no longer interested in convincing a white European about anything. What I am talking about is I'm talking to my Arab friends and colleagues. I'm talking to Turks, I'm talking to Pakistanis, I'm talking to Africans, I'm talking to Latin Americans. Which means the reason that I write in English, because talk in English and write in English, because that English, I, as a colonial person, I have appropriated it. It's my language. The same is that the French have appropriated, the Africans have appropriated French. Latin Americans have appropriated the Spanish. So those languages are our languages with which we communicate.
دكتور، يعني حضرتك كنت أشرت ربما للملا صدرة وللثقافة الإيرانية الغنية. حقيقة نحن بنعاني بالمنطقة العربية. المشهد الثقافي الإيراني غير منقول عنا للعربية. يعني بعتقد غير ترجمة أو ترجمتين يتيمتين لهاري كوربان عن يعني التشيع الروحي في إيران لم ينقل لدينا الكثير. بعتقد أنه في شيء كتير كبير لازم ينعمل بهالموضوع.
Oh,
قوة
absolutely.
إيران الثقافية هي أكبر بكتير من قوتها العسكرية. ولكن خليني أرجع شوي للسياسة. قوتها العسكرية، أو خلينا نقول صورة إيران العسكرية بالمنطقة، جزء منها صنع النظام الإيراني نفسه، باعتباره يشكل شئنا أم أبينا يعني في بنية عسكرية بتشكل صلب هذا النظام. هل تعتقد بنهاية هذه الحرب هل سيبقى النظام الإيراني على ما هو عليه، أم أنه سيكون هناك توسعة نوعا ما للنظام ليضم أكثر الأصوات الوطنية الأقل أيديولوجية الأكثر تنوع بالفترة المقبلة؟ شو بتعتقد ممكن يكون مستقبل هالشيء؟
I think that we are, after 28th February, when bombs started dropping on Iran, and after the slaughter of 170 children in Minab school, and so forth, we are beginning what I call epistemic shift, how we understand Iran. The fact that two nuclear powers, United States and Israel, attacked Iran, Iran that has been under sanction for 47 years, and still Iran is standing erect. They thought within 4 days, Netanyahu told Trump, Iran will fall in 4 days. No, Iran does not fall in 4 days. They don't understand. As you just said, I am in opposition to Islamic Republic until the first bomb stops on my country, on my homeland. Suddenly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I disagree with the ruling regime. I'm talking about my homeland. My homeland is under attack, so I defend my homeland. I am convinced that two things will happen. One is domestic to Iran, the fact that Iran has defended itself, the fact that Iran has stayed erect, the fact that Iran has, after 500 years of colonial domination of the Persian Gulf, first by the Portuguese, then by the British, the way that Shah Abbas during the Safavid period got rid of the Portuguese, because Portuguese were dominant in the Gulf, all the Hormuz Strait, etc., were under control of the Portuguese, was through the British, and then. Under the British, of course, the Gulf was under their control. But right now, the alliance that is between Iran and Oman, so far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, is not only a strategic alliance, but also a symbolic alliance, because it connects the Arab world to the Iranian world through their best mutual interests, economic interests, military interests. But I'm neither an economist nor am I a military person. I'm an intellectual. I'm a مثقف.
Okay.
So I
طيب.
can only think in terms of intellect. So for me, this link between Oman and Iran on the in the Gulf, in the Hormuz, is crucial for us for me to be able to have conferences in Beirut, in Damascus, in Tehran, in Isfahan, that brings Arab and Iranian and Turkish and Indian intellectuals and scholars together in order to rethink what holds our cultures together. But the military success is absolutely miraculous. Nobody would have expected this would happen. That an F-5, think of it, Bashar, F-5, Phantom 5, which is 70 years old, was kept in its condition that one fighter pilot could fly it and go to Kuwait and defend the Iranian sky.
طيب، أنا دكتور بعرف أنه ربما يعني تطول الأسئلة مع حضرتك، وخليني يعني أدعي حضرتك أنه حقيقة تقدر تعطينا من وقتك كل فترة، لأنه بعتقد أنه بالعالم العربي بالمنطقة العربية نحتاج بشكل كبير جدا لنسمع من أشخاص مثل حضرتك الكثير من الكلام عن الثقافة، عن الغرب، عن منطقتنا. وبعتقد حقيقة هذا الوقت المناسب لنزرع خلينا نقول الأفكار التحررية عند شعوبنا. بعتقد هذا هو أكثر وقت مناسب. فأتأمل أنه توعدني ب يعني لقاءات تانية دكتور، وبعرف أن الحديث كثير بيطول مع حضرتك.
Inshallah,
آه،
inshallah.
نتمنى إن شاء الله أنه
My heart is in Beirut. My heart is particularly in southern Lebanon, that I dearly love and admire. And I very much hope that I have not been to Lebanon for a few years. I would love to come back, continue our conversation in person, inshallah.
إن شاء
And
الله.
as I said, be you and I and the rest of us. Mirvat Abu Khalil. I just remembered Mirvat, my dearest friend Mirvat in
صديقتنا
Beirut.
ميرفت.
Yes, and if
هيدي
you
دعاية لصديقتنا. خليني أقول إنه يعني إن شاء الله بترجع على لبنان، بتزور لبنان، وسويا بنطلع على الجنوب وبيكون معنا
inshallah,
أصدقائك.
inshallah,
الجنوب دايما قلبه مفتوح يعني لكل الناس، فكيف
inshallah.
إذا كان مثل حضرتك. أنا بدي
Inshallah.
أتشكرك
Before
كثير.
before we before we say goodbye, I just must remember Samah Idris,
آه،
dearest friend, who published Al
الله يرحمه.
Adab in Beirut, and who took me to Mar Elias to meet Ghassan Kanafani's wife years ago when I was
جميل.
in Beirut. But thank you, Bashar, for having me. It was a pleasure
أنا
talking to you, and I
أنا
hope
كثير بتشكرك، وإن شاء
uh,
الله
to be
بيبقى
able to talk to you more.
التواصل دايما بيناتنا. شكرا كثير
مزبوط.
لك.
شكرا شكرا.
شكرا. شكرا.
يعني بعد وقت